10 years since the start of Software Craftsmanship, I think it's made a lot of us being conscious about our craft. Which, as programmers, there's so many things we have to deal with. And I think for me, Software Craftsmanship has been really helping me focus on everything I do is important, and the code in particular, how I write the code, how I structure the code, how I communicate about the code to other people is really important, because we write code primarily for other humans as much as we do to compile it actually in a computer to execute it. But I think that recognition of I'm writing this for some other folks, and therefore I should learn from other people that have done something similar about how to stand on the shoulders of giants, as Sandra likes to say, the software craftsmanship movement has really helped me appreciate that and develop skills around that. Yeah, the software craftsmanship movement, it's very broad, and I think, to be honest, it's going to be one of those things that it's a never-ending journey. I don't even know if we have got any goals per se with software craftsmanship. It's about obviously writing quality software and so forth. But for me, with the technologies changing, the business requirements changing, the platforms changing, the people changing, there's so much in the mix that I think it's a never-ending journey. But that's not to say there isn't value in it, that clearly, by having something good to aim for, even if that goalpost gets extended, we can make sure we're actually focusing on that goal. Yeah, so sort of different communities learning from each other, in particular software craftsmanship and, say, DevOps. I think there's much to learn, and to be honest, a lot of the tribes that form, it's somewhat an arbitrary boundary. I think there's many craftspeople that would identify as developers, or identify as programmers, or identify as QA folk, for example. There's a lot of sort of cross-pollination there. But I think a lot of it is about being a professional. That's one other thing I took away from software craftspersonship, in that aspire to always do better in what you do. Leave things better than when you found them. Communicate effectively, these things. I think almost regardless of the medium you work in, whether it's code, whether it's infrastructure, really thinking about how you're sort of leaving the state of the world, how you're communicating with folks is really important. And ultimately, things like DevOps, it's about fast feedback. It's about delivering business outcomes, business value to people. And software craftsmanship is sort of one core component of that, as in making sure we enable the rapid and the sustainable pace of delivering that value, albeit through code in the software craftspersonship movement. Yes, I've just given a talk about testing microservices from development to production. For me, it's actually with my friend and co-author of the book, Abraham Marin-Perez. Our book was Continuous Delivery in Java, and a core part of that book was focused around testing. We went and chatted to lots of folks. We've got lots of experience together with consulting, albeit separately. But we recognized that testing's really hard. As folks, adapting these service-based architectures, in theory, it's kind of standard software architecture, the coupling and cohesion, not many things have changed. But the mechanism of deployment means with microservices, we have a hard network boundary. And that really makes people struggle with testing. So I wanted to, or myself and Abraham, I should say, even though Abraham's not here, he's here in spirit today, he's busy doing other things. But we wanted to really convey to folks that testing is really important. Some things change, but there is now tools and techniques that we've learned we'd like to pass on. There's mistakes we made, we'd like to pass them on, so folks in the audience can hopefully learn from our mistakes and not repeat those, perhaps make new ones. I hope people are going to take a number of things away from my session. One is there is a few changes, as you say, do adopt service-based architecture. So I'd like people to recognize that that's a bigger jump than maybe they initially might appreciate. It was for me when I started that journey. I'd like them to also take away core messages around architecture, coupling, cohesion. Doesn't really matter what platform or architecture you use. Core principles like that are really important. I'd also like them to take away a little thing I kind of scribbled in at the end, but security. Security is really important. We're starting to see companies get caught with various things. We're starting to see the rise of cyber criminals, for example. People are deliberately targeting systems, be it for money, be it for governmental reasons. Security is, for me, a big part of being a software professional, and I'd like to see it talked about more. So I hope people take that away as well. Yeah, so I've been a Java champion for a number of years now, and I think I'd love for people to get more involved even with Java. I think people see it's an old language. There's not so much perhaps to work on now. But the code's open, the Adopt OpenJDK community that basically look at packaging Java to be consumed by everyone. There's a big foothold in London, so folks in London, but it's a global thing as well. I'd love people to get involved with looking at the Java language, looking at how we build that language and distribute it to folks. So check out adoptopenjdk.net, definitely a big fan of that. There's a few other projects I'm involved in too. You can definitely check out my GitHub repo, Daniel Bryant UK. But my main sort of passion at the moment is around making sure the future of Java is rich. So finally, I write for InfoQ, and we've just put out a programming language trends report. We do this every year. We chat to folks, we look at the sort of landscape, and I think the biggest impact in regards to software craftspersonship is around choice of language. There's a sudden explosion of new languages popping up, things like Darklang, Pulumi, Ballerina, and many other languages, Nim, for example. I think now we're almost spoilt for choice. So I think a big thing, being a craftsperson, is making sure we're constantly learning and we're constantly understanding our context and choosing the right tools. And for me, in this particular space, there's lots of stuff going on in tech, to be honest, but in the craftspersonship space, I really think as languages evolve over the next few years, there's going to be a lot of interesting things to learn and make sure we're up to date on. Yes, I've mentored folks in London now for many years, and to be honest, it's all about pay it forward. So people like Sandro, who's running this conference, people like Martin Verberg, Ben Evans, were my mentors when I came onto the scene 10 plus years ago now. I have always followed in their footsteps, standing on the shoulders of giants, and they always said to me, pay it forward. And one way you can easily do that is basically ask people how they need help. My mentors, when I first started, I said, I listened to the advice they were giving me, but I also said, how can I help you? How can I extend your reach? I think that's a great way to get started. If you want to level up in your career or you admire someone, just reach out. Some people may ignore you, for sure. A whole bunch won't. And a whole bunch of folks will say, hey, I see you there. What do you want to learn? What can I help you with? And then I find it's quite a symbiotic relationship. It certainly was to me. And one day, before you know it, you've kind of switched roles and you become a mentor as well. So I definitely think that the core lessons really are never be afraid to ask, to say hello to folks, ask them for help. And do find some people that you can relate to in the community. And it's a very diverse community, the software craftsmanship movement. There's someone that will be like you in the way you think. Sometimes you have to look quite hard for them, but I do find if you find that person that you connect with, it's a really good way to understand how you can help others as much as you can help yourself. So I've really enjoyed my day so far at Software Craftsmanship London Conference. I think the most unique thing at the moment is there's various different backgrounds. Over lunch, I was chatting to many different people, and I go to a lot of cloud conferences, a lot of Java conferences, a lot of microservice conferences, I'll be honest, and we are, in our tribes, quite homogenous in viewpoints sometimes. So what I really enjoyed here, and it's why I really like being involved in the craftsmanship movement, is that we all have different backgrounds, we all have different languages, we have different goals, and I had some really, in some ways, awkward conversations at lunch, as in challenging my perceptions, my views. People were like, why do you think that way? Why do you think that? And I actually enjoyed that. It was a safe kind of environment, don't get me wrong. No one was pushing too hard. But that's what I really like about software craftsmanship movement in general. And it translates to this conference. I think, Sandro, Mash, all the folks that organize it, it's in their DNA. I've certainly admired that from them and learned from them on that. And I think it's like the folks who self-select into this conference are on board with that. So they're not afraid to push the boundaries, they're not afraid to learn new things. And as cliched as it might sound, that's not always so common these days. So I appreciate that kind of fresh perspective.